Safeguard Properties was supposed to be protecting millions of homes that slid into foreclosure. Instead, internal documents reveal a very different story, one that accuses the company of incompetence, thefts, and break-ins. Joining us to discuss on set is Ben Hallman, HuffPost senior financial writer. So Ben, the Huffington Post led the investigation and focused on Safeguards as the largest player in the little scrutinized industry. You've been digging, so tell us about your findings.
Sure. Well, just to give you a little bit of background, I mean, this is an industry that is supposed to be looking after the foreclosed homes that are out there, and there's millions of these homes that are in default or foreclosure. I mean, basically, if you fall behind on your mortgage payments by more than 45 days, somebody's coming by to look at your house. The bank, somebody look after your house. And there's reasons for that, because you don't want these houses just decaying and becoming hazards. Yeah. So what I've found over the course of 8 or 9 months of looking into this industry, and the story we're talking about today is the third story I've written, is that too often the contractors that are hired by the banks don't take enough care before they decide to break into a house. And once they're inside, rather than backing away quietly, if they realize that the house is still occupied, sometimes they're removing people's possessions, they're basically stealing their stuff.
And how did this come to light?
Well, so initially, my investigation was sparked by a tip, but as it's progressed, I've talked to dozens of the contractors who actually do this work. The ones who feel like they're doing a good job and are above board are among the people who are most distraught because they see their peers out there benefiting illegally, essentially. This most recent piece is based on testimony from a person who worked at the largest of these companies. It's called Safeguard Properties. It inspects each year millions of houses for most of the largest banks. It just acquired Bank of America's inspection arm. 1,200 employees or so near Cleveland. It's a company that nobody really knows much about. In fact, it's an industry that nobody really knows much about.
Like, it's almost like house repo work instead of car repo work.
It is, and since because it happens so often behind closed doors, I mean, literally, behind the doors of people's homes who are foreclosed on, people just aren't really paying attention. This piece, I think, describes the scope of these complaints.
Right. It seems like perhaps one could say, oh, well, this might have happened a couple times from a few bad apples at one company. How many complaints actually were there? Well,
yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. So, Safeguard and the others would say, hey, look, we're looking at millions of homes. Occasional mistakes are expected. My most recent story shows that, the guy who was actually logging these complaints at Safeguard Properties was logging 100 or more a month.
Wow.
And these are not, some of these are minor, but many of these are, breaking and entering, theft. One person complained that their roof had been removed by mistake. And it's not just people whose homes are in trouble or in distress. I mean, sometimes it's the neighbors. Very often these contractors are getting the address wrong and breaking into somebody else's house. It has nothing to do with the foreclosed property or the property that's in distress.
And what time frame was this going on?
So this particular story is based on an account of somebody who worked at Safeguard Properties from 2008 through 2010. And I conclude my story with an anecdote from a homeowner who alleges that somebody from Safeguard broke into her house 2 months ago, or in March. So, I mean, the complaints are rolling in. There's lawsuits filed every month against this company, and not just this company, but other companies as well.